Kagurabachi is no longer relevant. It's bigger.
Love's gonna get you, kid. The price gonna be the death of you and me.
Kagurabachi is truly setting up to become one of the greats, from Shoujo to Kiora to Yora to Samura, and throw in some sprinkles of disgustingly enthralling action sequences I've seen in manga in a while, and then cherry that top with some beautiful storytelling. I'm starting to think Kagurabachi is here to make some statements right now. It feels like Hokuzono's come out the gate swinging, and Chapter 77 does just that. So let's talk about it.
Sometimes you gotta close the door to open a window.
First things first, we're not going to talk about the beard. Okay, I had a mishap, so let the beard slide. It is what it is. First things first, we are treated to a glorious double spread, one that I personally think cements the new trio of protagonists within the series. I've got a feeling that we're going to just like get to a certain point here, and Hokuzona's going to be like, you know, prologue, finished, you know, and now the story begins. Like, all of this is just the prologue so far, who knows? But we have Hakuri and his dad Kiora, a story that we've already covered within the Rakusachi arc, and then we have Chihiro and his dad, who is a story that we're seeing unfolding as we are speaking right now, and then finally we have Iori and Samura, who, out of the three of these, are my favourite characters within the series. I genuinely think that these two are some of the best written characters within the series, and you might think that that's a bit over the top, but I do want you to notice something about this image. Both Hakuri and Chihiro's father have passed away. Hakuri seeks to right the wrongs of his dad, much like Chihiro, who is yet to discover the wrongs of his father. And then finally, we have Samura, who, as I've already said, I've made predictions right now on how I think Hirohiko is gonna have to deal with him. I think he's gonna have Iori kill Samura, or somehow vice versa. I'm more leaning towards the Iori killing Samura now after this last chapter, but we'll see. Hiru manipulating Iori here and killing Samura is something that I think I'm confident in happening, because as time goes on, I believe Samura's place in this story is to die as a martyr, but we will get into that in another time. I keep saying that I want to make a video specifically about Samura because of how much his character has just hit me, but we will get into that. But this chapter opens up introducing us to a man named Kanryu Yoshida, who served in the war and is painting what he saw Samura doing during that war, depicting a phoenix rising above hands that are burning. And now we will swing back to this because this is very relevant, but I also just want to point out, introducing a whole new character just to hype up a current character, kind of fucking baller, to be honest with you. But we cut back to Samura, Chihiro, and Hiru, who are now getting ready to fight. And both Chihiro and Hiru notice that obviously Samura's alive here, obviously reborn through the Suzaku flames here, an ability that got activated in the previous chapter. But Chihiro notices how Samura left his eyes unhealed. Now, this piece of information is important for two reasons. One, Samura can choose what gets healed by Suzaku. That is very important. And two, Samura intentionally chose not to heal his eyes here. Out of everything that he's done, every hypocritical action that he's taken, every misstep he's made as a father and a warrior and a fighter and a human being, he chose to stick firmly to his convictions of not wanting to heal the peepers. I think that's a very interesting choice for him. But regardless, the fight begins, and Hiru notices two feathers behind him and turns to face them. But in this panel right here, he actually grabs Chihiro to place him into the path of Samura's blade, who, he says, I'll cut them both. Yeah, I think we're making it very clear there that Samura's intentions are to get rid of these two, which is, again, a very interesting decision here. But he also hits Chihiro with the banquet ability at the same time. We can tell because of how he's drawn. He's drawn all sorts of wibbly-wobbly in comparison to Samura. And also, the room is wavy here, so there's that. But Chihiro locks in, activating Nishiki to counter the blade. And as the three blades clash, a slash or a shockwave is sent flying throughout the building that completely and utterly destroys it. Now, first of all, this panel is just simply beautiful. Like, look at it. Holy, it is simply beautiful. Now, secondly, this clash was foreshadowed back in chapter 61, and the blades are almost in the exact same position, kind of, almost, but it's there. And thirdly, there is two ways that you can look at this clash right here, and the resultant destruction of said clash. One, it is just simply a shockwave from their clash. Two, it's actually Chihiro's slash just before they clash, because Chihiro activates Nishiki, which is most likely to reinforce his ears to counter the banquet. but it could have been a full-body Nishiki in order to keep up with Samura's speed and to deal with the fact that Hiro just threw him into the path of an attack that he wasn't ready for yet. Another reason that it might also be Chihiro/Hiro is because we've actually seen him emulate Centipede, an attack from the Shinoichi in chapter 49. He even called it out to Hakuri, and we know Chihiro has improved his sword skill greatly here, so it is possible that he could have just slashed his building too, but I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. But you know what else I would like you to hear? Today's sponsor, Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep are long-time friends of the channel, and they offer the best sleep masks on the market without a doubt. As some of you might know, I recently became a dad, so as you can imagine, sleep has been and will continue to be an elusive mistress. But thanks to Manta Mask, I have been able to get some of the semblance of sleep back into my life with their ultra-comfortable blackout masks, and as for when the baby's screaming a bit too much, causing the old man a headache over here, these weighted masks have been absolutely perfect. But they offer so much more. Sound masks, which lets you listen to the beautiful sounds of whale noises or whatever it is that you listen to while you're trying to sleep. A cool mask designed to literally keep you cool. Imagine the cold side of the pillow, but on your face permanently. So use code WEEB for 10% off your order today. And once again, a massive shout out to Manta Sleep for sponsoring the channel. Long-time friends of the channel. Thank you. The aftermath of this clash leaves this building in complete and utter ruins as we see Hiro assessing the situation here, noting the following. Samura can use the flames to attack too. It regenerates and can probably mitigate altered states. Banquet won't work, and all it will do against Chihiro is make him turbocharge Nishiki to counter it. Now, this lends credit to my theory that it might have actually been Chihiro who caused all of this destruction with this slash, possibly in a similar way to Ichigo and Aizen when Ichigo obliterated the mountain behind Aizen. Could be a similar thing, a little bit of a misdirect from Hokozona here. Hiro continues, in that case, should I use my third ability? No, I'm behind the other two at this point, so I need to focus my mental capacity not for quantity, but for quality. I can't hesitate. I have to pour everything into my next move. And this is where Hiro activates play. Now, I've mentioned this in previous chapters that everything Hiro does from now on, I am extremely skeptical of, because when you introduce a sword like the Kumiyori that has an illusionary ability, and a man like Hiro who's wielding it, anything's possible. Everything is, everything's off the table when it comes to what you can trust and what you can't trust. And the very fact that Hiro can't affect Chihiro or Samura with Banquet means that other people can now be his target. Looking at you, Iori. Anyways, the narration continues and play enables a user to command all objects in the vicinity to manipulate them freely. To utilize an object skillfully, the user must become familiar with its structure by playing with it repeatedly. The more they respect the object, the more they can wield it with precision. Now, this got me to think about how differently Uraha would have used this sword in comparison to Hiro here. I mentioned this in the last video, but I can't see Uraha using this blade to raise the dead, because we've met Uraha. We just know, I just feel like that's just not going to be him. But we do know for a fact that Uraha greatly loved and respected and admired Kunishigi, so naturally, Uraha probably cherished that sword like a child. And this very thing is actually referenced in chapter 48, where Uraha asks Chihiro if he can hold Enten, to which Chihiro responds like a baby. And then a little bit later on, he is actually holding the sword like a baby, to which Hakuri says he's actually holding this like a baby. So there is that, but it does make me wonder just how different Hiro's fighting styles would have been in comparison. And I hope we do eventually get to see Uraha's fighting style, maybe in a flashback later on down the line. So this is where we get to the more harrowing part of the chapter, because a little while ago in chapter 70, it was revealed to us that the first time Hiro killed a man was at the age of 3, at the very tender age of 3. He actually bit a full-grown man to death who was assaulting him. Now, fast forward to chapter 77, and we get to see a young Hiro covered in blood, and a man is laying next to him. Now, there are some very dark implications in how this murder went down, and it involves a word that I'm not really allowed to say on YouTube because YouTube gods will smite me, but think along the lines of Guts and Donovan. If you know, you know. Anyways, the narration continues. For Hiro, killing was just killing. There was no deeper meaning. His respect for life was non-existent, and this disdain applied even more so to objects. He had nothing but contempt for all things, and thus his compatibility with play was the worst. Now, everything that we have seen about Hiro so far in retrospect to this statement makes complete and utter sense. It's very consistent. This dude is an absolute psycho and has been there. He's been that psycho since the very chapter that he showed up. But that childlike manner is going to end up being his undoing here. And it's something that I want to explore a little bit soon. When all this arc is done, I would really like to take a deep dive on Hiro and Samura and Iori and their characters and how they developed, because it's just been, Hokuzona's just treating us, man. It's really good. Like, visual storytelling is just Bravissimo. But we cut back to the destruction of the building as Chihiro and Samura are regaining their bearings here, and we see Hiru completely and utterly locked in. So locked in fact, that a vein starts to pop on the side of his face and his nose starts to bleed from how locked in this dude actually is right now. And as it turns out, Hiru and his incompatibility with play is actually going to be the key to his own true realm, as we see Hiru starting to tap into it, starting to tap into the true realm of the Kumayori, or his true realm of the Kumayori, should I say. Now, this is something that I mentioned in the last video, how I believe Hiru is going to be one of the guys within this series so far to show us the true realm of the blade. He's been constantly set up as a prodigy, as an invaluable battle asset, according to Yora, and this right here is why. This dude has only had hold of this enchanted blade for, I don't know, less than 10 minutes maybe in world time here, and he has completely started to understand the blade and started to enter its true realm already. And this man has his ability completely and utterly wrapping and warping the building as we see it twisting and contorting, and until eventually it breaks as we see a pair of hands grasping it at the top and the bottom, completely and utterly crumbling the building. Now, this panel right here, it's phenomenal. It's lovely. I've talked about this so many times about how when Hokuzono does this kind of postcard Polaroid moments, they're always meant to signify something great, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what it feels like, a big moment for Hiru right here. It's a moment that's so big it's actually transcending the very panels that it's being displayed upon. Now, Samura notes how this power, it's not a hallucination, it's actually physically demolishing the building that they are stood in right now, and we get to see this building tearing apart. There's more corpses come pouring out through the cracks, and we also get to see Iori here. Just saying, keep an eye on Iori. She's still got a blade. She could be like, oh, I'm gonna go see my dad under the influence, and then think he's the bad guy and then try and stab him, and then it's revealed that it's actually Samura that she just stabbed. I'm just saying. Here's where it gets more interesting and how we get more insight into Hiru's character here. We get to see Chihiro being surrounded by corpses as he notes that Hiru is trying to bury him in rubble and corpses, and no amount of slashing will cut through this, which is also just cap. He just cut through an entire building. I'm pretty sure we could probably figure this out, you know what I'm saying? Noting how Hiru's wounds are deep, so how does he even have this kind of energy? And it's here where we get what is driving Hiru. And it's hatred. It's basically hatred. This dude is waking up every morning with a fresh hatred. He's literally just the opposite side of Chihiro, which I find very, very interesting. But Hiru's contempt for everything, his nihilism toward killing, it's here that Hiru notes, Chihiro, you alone are special. He's literally hitting the Jujutsu Kaisen, you know, I alone, I'm the honored one. That's literally what he's doing right here. It's here that Hiru's goals are clear as day. Hatred toward everything and everyone else, but love towards Chihiro. Now, you might be saying, Weeb, how in the fuck did you just arrive at the conclusion of love? Pay attention to what Hiru's saying here. Chihiro, you alone are special. You gave me meaning. To face each other with enchanted blades is the ultimate battle. With that goal, I can persevere infinitely. Now, as we say this, as he says this, we get to see a flashback to a conversation that they had way back when in the playhouse. And it's a conversation that led Hiru to firmly believe he'd made friends with Chihiro. Delusion. This dude is just completely and utterly deluded, and it's this piece of delusion that lets him lock in even more so. We get to see Samura cutting down these corpses who are charging him, and Hiru notes how, like Cloud Gouger had an interval to recharge the ability for Mei, so too must Suzaku. There must be a limitation, noting how he is going to overwhelm Samura with mass. Choosing to be smart, Samura backs up, and this is where we get to see the battle IQ and the experience differential between Samura and Hiru right here, because he's being chased by a horde of corpses who are clambering over each other to reach him, and it's haunting because they are literally using each other as steps and ladders and like swings to further reach higher and higher and higher. And this kind of scene reminds me of something from World War Z. If you haven't seen that film, really good film, just mindless action film. But it's here Hiru starts to shout the title of this video. He's no longer relevant. It's time for our showdown, Chihiro. But funny enough, he thinks to himself, now to break the deadlock, show me your true realm. And this is in reference to chapter 49, where both the Tobimuni and the Kumayori were depicted interlocking, and Hiru also asks to be shown a true realm, and that's what he gets. In his thoughts, he says, now show me your true realm. He doesn't actually say who he wants that true realm to come from. He gets a true realm. as we see Samura high in the clouds, wings floating and getting ready to draw on the corpses below him. Now, once again, Hokuzono made use of this postcard format, same thing that he did with Hiro right here. And again, the details extending outside of the box are just, it's beautiful. And the last time that we saw this postcard format for Samura, he actually proclaimed that he was going to go to hell in chapter 51 for wanton killing. And I find it interesting how Kanryu actually depicted this dude as like this angel, as like these hands are reaching up, but now these hands are the hands of the dead and the damned reaching up towards him. It's very interesting visual storytelling of Samura. But now we see him getting ready to dive on these piles of corpses to finish Hiro. And now as he dives, he burns the building and the corpses who came to challenge him. Now Hiro mentions how he is blasting through everything just to get to him. Does he not care if everything else goes up in flames? Which is where the narrator kicks in. Tobimune's third power is Suzaku, the power of the immortal bird to self-combust and rise again. However, he's already further evolved that power in previous battles. In his true realm, he can apply that boon to more than just himself. Those flames are flames of universal mercy, and we get to see Kanryu sat looking at his arm, which is now healed. Healed as a result of the attack Samura used on a battlefield during the wars. We get to see him without an arm, and then he has an arm, and he's looking at that arm, which brings me full circle back to this painting, because this painting right here, on first impressions, you could interpret this that, you know, Samura is just destroying his enemies. But given the context of how Suzaku, the ability, works, it could also be Samura restoring his comrades on the battlefield and they're looking to him as some sort of deity. Think more along the lines of that one Superman scene from Man of Steel. It could be something along that lines. Either way, I think either interpretation works in my own personal opinion. Whatever camp you fall into there, either one works. Anyways, the narration continues. Seichi Samura's Suzaku flames reached everything affected by the altered state Hiro inflicted with the Kamuri. The first time Hiro ever cared sincerely for anyone or anything, his all or nothing rampaging blitz in a single moment, it was completely and utterly nullified. Now, as we get to see this building that was once torn apart, Samura's completely and utterly healed. It's back to normal, and he is in tears and utter disbelief as to what has just happened, as Samura picks up the Kamiyori, saying, "This time, it's no illusion," turning to face Chihiro. Now, I'm going to be honest here. Do I think Hiro is dead? No, absolutely not. Do I think he will retreat? Probably. Absolutely, yes. Is there a possibility that this is all actually an illusion? I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it. The biggest reason I don't think this is an illusion is because the way Banquet works is making them see what Hiro wants them to see. But Hiro has no idea about Suzaku or its abilities in the true realm, so he couldn't make Samura see this, right? I don't know. I'm very skeptical. I don't think he could make Samura hallucinate that badly, considering the breakthrough that he had in the previous chapter. However, there is a possibility that Hiro activates that third and final power of the Kamiyuri. I will be kind of sad that if it turns out that Hiro dies here and he didn't get to activate that third power, I'll be kind of sad about that. But I will go back to my previous logic on why I don't think he's going to die, is because if Hiro was going to die here and now, I think Samura would have killed him here and now instantly. But instead, Samura has picked up the blade and turned to Chihiro, and we quite clearly see that Hiro is still alive because, you know, he's chilling, he's speaking, he's alive, and also Toto could probably just teleport him out of there. Which brings me to my next point. We could be about to see Samura dual-wield swords against Chihiro, which I think is insane. And I also believe that we could be about to see the true realm of Chihiro's enter, or at least the tip of the iceberg for it, because everyone in this fight so far has shown their true realm. Hiro used it to destroy the building, and Samura used it to repair said building. So I'm going to assume that eventually here, Chihiro is going to enter that true realm, especially given how mastering the EI White Purity style would help bring him close to that true realm, as he mentioned a couple chapters ago. So it's going to be interesting to see what Chihiro can do with this, but it is also worth pointing out that Chihiro is again ready to strike with the EI White Purity style, and you can see bubbles starting to form around him, so it could be a Nishiki coated one. Either way, I'm excited for this next fight. We are on a break next week, so we'll have to wait like till May 11th for the next chapter. Sad times, is what it is. But anyways, that is everything from me. Let me know what you thought of the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, because we are slowly but surely creeping up to 40,000 subscribers. Be kind of cool if we could hit that sometime soon. Massive shout out to the members on the channel, as well as Manta Sleep for sponsoring the channel, long-time friends of the channel. Thank you for sponsoring today's video, and as always, I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much fucking love, big fucking kisses, peace.